In Greek mythology, Ophion is a primordial serpent or dragon who ruled the world with his consort, Eurynome, before being overthrown by Zeus and the Olympian gods. He is sometimes associated with the creation of the world and the cosmos. The Orphic egg is a symbol of creation in Orphic text. It is said to have contained the universe and was split open by the god Phanes, or in some versions, the serpent Ophion coils around the egg to split it open, who emerges Phanes from the light as the first being, or lightbringer. The egg is often depicted as being surrounded by a serpent, representing the cycle of life and death. Zeus and Typhon battle in the beginning of the world. Typhon was the monstrous giant who challenged the rule of the gods, and Zeus fought him in this great battle. Zeus ultimately defeats Typhon and banishes him to Tartarus, where he is chained down until the end of the world. In ancient Canaanite text, a demon king named Habayu, who is depicted as Lord of Horns and Tail, defeats El after a drinking party that El throws for the gods. El was seated in his drinking party. El drank wine until he was full, new wine until he was drunk. El went into his house, he reached his court. Thukimona and Shunama held him along. Then Habayu confronted him, Lord of Horns and Tail. He smeared him with piss and crap. El collapsed like a corpse. El went down into the Underworld. The next few lines of the tablet are destroyed, but he seems to be revived by Anat and Astarte. And so you have an evil demon king who kills El, the king of the gods, and then gets away with it, and is never destroyed by El in any more texts that we know of. This shows us that the image of the goat-like demons goes back as far as human memory serves. Satyrs and goat demons are often depicted in ancient Greek and Roman mythology as creatures with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a goat and horns. They were often associated with fertility, wine, and revelry. And in some myths, they're also known for their mischievous and lustful behavior. Angra Mainyu is a figure in Zoroastrianism, often referred to as the destructive spirit or evil spirit. He is often compared to the devil or Satan. The word devil, which comes from the Greek diablos, which means accuser, becomes associated with goat-like appearance of satyrs. Later on, ultimately because of Christian mythology, the word demon comes from the Greek Daemon, which originally referred to as any divine spiritual being. It later becomes associated with malevolent or mischievous demons, of opposite force of the angels. The Devas and Asuras are figures in mythology, in Vedic and Zoroastrian theology. In Zoroastrianism, the Deva are evil, while in Hinduism, the Devas are good, and the Asuras, which are a group of powerful beings depicted as the enemies of gods in Hinduism, are actually the good gods in Zoroastrianism. This reflects the political divide between India and Persia. In Greek text, these are represented by the Olympians and Titans. The Olympians are a younger generation of gods led by Zeus, while the Titans were the older generation led by Kronos. The two groups were in conflict for control of the universe, while the Olympians ultimately emerging victorious. The word angel comes from the Greek angelos, which means messenger. In these terms, demons and angels did not have a dichotomy until the time of Christianity in the 1st century. However, the dichotomy comes straight from the asuras, and devas, or Olympians and Titans. So there is a direct influence on this dichotomy. In Hinduism, Kali is the goddess associated with destruction and transformation. She is often depicted with multiple arms and a fierce expression, holding serpents, and is considered a powerful force for change and renewal. In some traditions, Kali is associated with death and the underworld. The Bhagavad Purana states that the very day that Krishna left the earth is when Kali promoted all kinds of irreligious activities into the world. All of this stems from the Sumerian dichotomy of gods and monsters. Here is a chart from Mesopotamian Protective Spirits ritual text by F.A.M. Wigerman. As you can see, the monsters are composed, while the gods are anthropomorphic. The monsters are supernatural freaks, while the gods are representative of normal order. The monsters represents the phenomenon of nature, while the gods represent the whole to which the phenomenon belongs. Monsters intervene in human affairs. Gods, on the other hand, afford background and stability. Monsters are unpredictable associates, while gods are the masters. Monsters rebel, while gods are the rightful rulers. Monsters are the defeated enemies, gods are the victors, and so forth. According to Wigerman, the emergence of these ideas was from an attempt by the ancients to describe phenomenon happening in nature that is undescribable, that often cannot be explained unless there was some evil force at work. For example, hurricanes and floods coming from malevolent gods, rather than rain coming from good gods helping to grow crops, or a tsunami coming from the lake from a destructive force. Wigerman shows the many examples of these so-called monsters, which seem to look very similar to the Greek daemons. Here is a depiction of what would look like centaurs and satyrs and other horned deities and serpent legs. Being a monster or a daemon did not necessarily mean they were evil. For example, Pan is the Greek god of nature, wild, shepherds, and flocks. He is often depicted as half man, half goat creature, the horns and a tail. Pan is also associated with music and is said to have invented the pan flute. He is often depicted as mischievous and playful, and also has a darker side, as the god of fear and panic. Pan later becomes the image of the devil in later Christian times, most likely because the devil represents all that is opposed to Christianity. Since paganism is the ultimate opposition to Christianity, Pan becomes the symbol of the devil as a symbol of paganism. But the duality of good versus evil is much more complex than just Christian versus pagan. In the oldest Pelasgian creation myth, the serpent of chaos, Ophion, attacks Eurynome, and she bruises his head with her heel, and then banishes him to the dark underworld where he is chained down. This myth is reflected in the tempting of Eve by the serpent, or Lilith in Genesis. Genesis 3:15 says, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." Direct reference from the Pelasgian creation myth. Not only is this duad reflected in the Vedic myth of Mitra and Varuna, but also with the Orphic egg in the serpent of chaos, from which Phanes burst forth as the Lightbringer, and the serpent of chaos is chained to the underworld. Like Zeus defeating Typhon and chaining him in Hades until the end of the world. The myth of Prometheus, who is the creator of mankind and giver of wisdom, echoes the Sumerian Enki, as he is chained by Zeus as punishment for giving humans knowledge. This mythology is directly dealt with in the text of Revelation as well. Revelation 20:1-3. I saw an angel descending out of heaven. He carried the key to the abyss and a chain, a huge chain. He grabbed the dragon, that old snake, that very devil, Satan himself, chained him up for 1,000 years, dumped him into the abyss, slammed it shut, sealed it tight. No more trouble out of him, deceiving the nations until the 1,000 years are up. After that, he is to be let loose briefly. John then proceeds to prophesy of the victory over the serpent of chaos and the underworld titans. And Thasala gave up the dead who were in it. Thanatos and Hades gave up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one of them, according to what they have done, which is in verse 13 of the same chapter of the serpent coming out of the underworld. Each of these three titans, Thasala, which is the sea, Thanatos, which is death, and Hades, who is the king of the underworld, are the titans who rule certain aspects of the underworld in Orphic theology, along with Persephone, Saturn, and Dionysus. It should not be too surprising to see this theological overlap, considering some of the earliest depictions of Jesus are as the new Orpheus, or the Good Shepherd. Christianity directly takes on this ancient struggle of these two opposing forces, and Christians today are still awaiting the apocalypse and the serpent, or Satan, to return. But all of this owes its existence to the Pelasgians and Sumerians of the ancient Copper and Bronze Age. It's clear that these ancient civilizations had a fascination with demons and monsters, and their mythology has certainly left its mark on modern religions like Christianity and Islam. Whether you believe in the existence of these creatures or not, there's no denying that they continue to capture our imaginations and inspire us to explore the mysteries of the universe. So let's raise a glass to the ancient Sumerians and their enduring legacy of myth and legend. You have just attained true gnosis.